welcome to Schmoedown Night in Canada. I'm Daniel, and I'm here with producer Dave, who I last saw on our interview with Adam Collins. How's it going, Dave?
I'm doing great, man. That was a great interview, and you actually just had another fantastic interview with the team's champion, Chance Ellison. If you like those interviews and you like this show, make sure that you like and subscribe to our channel. We have videos like this coming out all the time. And that was a great interview, by the way. Love you and Chance talking.
Oh, yeah. Getting to interview my favorite competitor in my second one was like both amazing and nerve-wracking the entire time. I almost missed it. I was running super late. I practically ran home. It was a whole thing.
Well,
and I'm not kidding about any of that. But we're not here to talk about Chance for once.
What are we here to talk about?
We're here to talk about Brendan the Kid Meyer playing Mark Andraco, and we're talking about Jader Paramo, the Hurricane, going up against Tom.
These were two fantastic matches.
Yeah, I loved both of these matches. Really, this whole round 2 looks super stacked. I'm super excited for it. And most of these competitors, it's hard to like pick the one that's going to go forward in a lot of these cases.
It really was, because I think, you look at most people left in the tournament are either former number 1 contenders, former champions, people playing at a very high level, or very strong, promising rookies. And there's going to be heartbreak city. Maybe not upsets, but heartbreaks along the way.
Yeah, especially for some managers that after this week kind of don't have competitors in the teams or in the singles tournament anymore, and they're relying solely on teams for their points for this season.
That's the unfortunate thing. That's the way the tournament goes. But you know what? Let's stop putting around and let's get to the first match, my man. Andraco versus the Kid. What were your thoughts going into this one? Getting my headphones.
Going into this one, before getting into what happens in it, which is very disappointing, I wasn't sure who's gonna beat this match, because you can't really pick between these two competitors. They're known for these drag out fights, and like Andraco against Bateman or against Bibiani multiple times. And then the Kid also had to play Bateman. And he's been putting up an incredible singles performance this season. He had to play Dan and almost won, which and then I have here, as we get into round 1 of that match, my notes say Andraco and Bibbs, the Kid, both have perfect first rounds.
You know what? That's not even a thing that I hadn't thought about, the Bibbs connection at all coming into this match. No, I really hadn't until someone brought it up. I was like, oh man, these are two fantastic competitors that we haven't got to see them face off against each other yet. And I guess we had in the tournament last year, but in singles, because we all thought Mark was probably done, and the Kid, he really only had that big tournament run last year, aside from the Paul and Video Drew match that he did. So I was excited to see these guys, especially because, like I just said, Mark Andraco, former team's champion, Brendan the Kid Meyer, former team's number 1 contender.
Yeah. And then, he also lost to Dan Murrell by a point earlier this season. He could have been the one playing Ben Bateman in Atlanta, and this whole season looks different.
It does. And a lot of people forget. Not only is Marco Andrego former teams champion, he's also one of the rare people who has beaten Ethan Irwin.
Yeah, and I mean, who's going to discount wins against Irwin, Bateman, Bibiani? Like, you need to beat the best to be the best, and both these competitors consistently beat the best, and I mean, should eventually take that next step.
Yeah.
And this was a rough one because it always sucks to see somebody get like not even a slice they don't like because they spun it, but to get opponent's choice and then to get a thing that is just your least strong category, which I wouldn't necessarily say movie release dates is Andreiko's least strong category, but it's most competitors like bottom 5.
Yeah, we talk a lot about momentum when we talk about the Schmoedown, and you look at something that you just brushed past. Both the Kid and Andreiko nail perfect for double perfect rounds with the bonus in the first round. Talk about the momentum that you must be feeling, and then there's nothing that quite kills it like opponent's choice. And I think movie release dates is one of those categories that is at the same time very surface level, because for the most part it's just a year and a movie put them together. But it's also all movies ever, so it's maybe the broadest category in the Schmoedown. So it's tough whenever anyone who's not named Ben Bateman, Sam Levine, or Scott Mantz gets it.
Yeah, and obviously, like they're not gonna ask. Yeah, it's studyable to a degree because there's a way to figure out kind of the scope of movies the writers will ask about. And I'm sure that's one way that Ben Bateman uses to break down that category, but I couldn't be sure. It's how I would try to tackle it anyway. And
And
I don't know that I even tried. The other thing I was going to say was Andreiko mentions in the post interview that he thinks like this match without opponent's choice could have been different. But I really think just this match without movie release dates would be different.
I agree.
I really think he could have done a lot better in any of the categories on that wheel except movie release dates.
I was looking at the wheel, and there was like 1980s and horror and a couple other things on there that he definitely could have rocked right through. And even some other stuff. I think Pixar was on the wheel, and that's something that's maybe not a strength of his, but it's something that he's gotten a lot better at over the Schmoedown career. But that's just the game. That's just the game we play. Well, we don't play it. We talk about it. That's the game. Yeah. That's the sport where release dates and opponent's choice come up.
Yeah, it was a smart spin off of comedies because the wheel was so strong for him, and there just happened to be one kind of silver bullet on it. And in his credit, it's a silver bullet to a lot of different competitors because, as you said, it is a very broad category. He goes multiple choice on 3 of them. He tries the last one. He only gets 2 out of his 8 possible points. And Brendan gets all 3 steals.
Well, 3 points in steals.
3 points in steals. My bad. Yes, and both steals 4-3.
That is the rough situation for anyone to be in, where your opponent hasn't spun yet and you are down. But this shows that Brendan really knows his stuff, because these were broad. You saw a lot of Oscar, like No Country for Old Men was from the Oscars. Don't eat my microphone. And other movies of that ilk, which are obviously Brendan's strength. But then you also get La La Land and a couple, and what was it, Weird Science. Weird Science. So it's not a specific type of movie. It's showing that he maybe has something we've all known for a while is he's pretty good at movie release dates, but he's really showcasing just how strong he can be.
But see, that's actually one thing that I want to point out is all of those movies you named, the ones that were in this match, are those like kind of popular movies. Everyone knew about La La Land, and Weird Science is a slightly different category, but it's more of a like I don't want to call it like a cult classic because
I think you can say that.
I guess to some people. But the point is, like, it is just like one of those movies that means a lot to people who study cinema.
Yeah.
And like there are many movies that are terrible that are watched by every person who chooses to study film.
I still think it's impressive when anyone can get especially a 2-point without going to multiple choice on a steal in movie release dates. I always find that so impressive.
Yeah, because you do have to just know a fact about that movie that general public does not.
Yeah.
And the another thing, since you mentioned we just talk about this game, I really want to talk about Brendan's game in this round because I love the second question here, the JTE and then the multiple choice and buying every second that he has. I saw a different competitor do it this year, and I went off about it in the episode, but I cannot remember who it was. And just, like, he definitely knew the movie and needed the time and couldn't put the words in the right order, so he calls for the multiple choice, and then he gets the answer immediately off of it. And
yeah.
I was super impressed by just the gameplay that goes down in that.
No, and he talked about it a little bit in his post-match interview where he's like breaking down why he checked to multiple choice all those times. Talking about like, oh, that one's kind of a tricky title. So is it like this or is it like that? And was there one random movie that Julia Roberts had done before Pretty Woman that might be screwing me up? And I really appreciate that kind of transparency in a competitor breaking down their process. And if you want to hear more about his process, you can head over to Northern Consultations. Check out the interview Lou did with him. Really great interview. Talks about a lot of great stuff, including how he thinks Nick Cage would do in the Schmoedown.
Oh. I am very interested in that. I should get on watching that episode. I've been so far behind.
Dan, you don't come on, man. And anyway,
I mean on many interviews. My list of podcast watch things is like 40 interviews long at this point. I try and catch any interview with people because it's so fun to pick the brains of the competitors and the personalities in the Schmoedown, and I like to see the way our competition does, you know?
Yeah, but back to Brendan here. I really like the idea of sticking with Julia Roberts, where he's like, I already have the lead. All I need to do is not let Andreyko steal, and I'll be up 6 points, and he has to answer all 3 of his questions to even bounce it back. I think that's really, instead of going for a knockout by spinning like to Oscars, which we know is his strength, sticking with Julia Roberts, a category he knows that he can at least get a couple points in, I think is really high level strategy. And you're seeing now why Ben Bateman talks about, when he talks about the students and the masters of the game, he's like, well, obviously I'm like the top strategist. And then sometimes he says Paulo Yama, but more often than not, he says the kid is right up there. And he is talking about the game in ways that I've never even thought of. And now we're really seeing it.
And also, it's very clear he watches more movies than most people should be able to.
Yeah.
Because, like, I would have to go back and really look at it, but the like eye test of Brendan Meyer hitting questions, particularly in that third round where you don't get to pick anything, you just get a
Mhm.
question and you have to answer it. I think it's a very high accuracy if we were to just think about it in the abstract. I cannot like quote his stats or anything, but he does very consistently well throughout all of his matches, and um, there are just these weird random pulls that nobody of his age should be able to get, and he just nails them as if he's watched that movie 12 times every Christmas for as long as he's been alive. Like,
Yeah, it really is nuts.
mm,
Um, but we get to the third round now, and this was the real heartbreaking point for me.
yeah, I have the kid 17 and Andreyko 11, and I I was disappointed because I really love Mark Andreyko, and
Yeah,
I wanted him to at least avoid the TKO in this match, and he had the worst possible round two you can have until we get to the next match, I guess. And then he got rom-coms for his 5, and I thought he had it.
I really
You
did too.
you're looking at Mark Andreyko 5-point question in rom-coms. They might have well have said like
Yeah, and
uh
then it was a McConaughey question, and the problem is in that era, McConaughey's doing so many of those like schmaltzy
mm.
romantic comedy movies.
And he
Like you get,
probably played 3 different kind of doctor in
yeah,
that 2-year span. Like, oh, was it the time he was an optometrist, or was it the time he was a
yeah, exactly. And that's so tough because immediately you start thinking, but it's so easy to get distracted by like How to Lose a Guy in 10
Mm.
Days or Ghosts of Girlfriends Past or one of the other ones from that era.
Also, the way it's worded, you start thinking of a movie. I don't know the name of the film. I didn't write it down, but like I doubt, because it seems like a romantic comedy. It doesn't have anything to do with him being a doctor.
No, but that's just the
And
unfortunate thing.
like a lot of I love questions about jobs of people in movies because they're tough to pull. But
Yeah.
generally I hope the movie is formed around the job in some way, which often they are, and in this case it just happened to be one of the context clues.
Mhm.
Really, really the biggest context clue was Matthew McConaughey rom-com and 2001, which admittedly is a weakness of Mark Andreyko's.
Yeah.
Like 2001 must be the big clue in there, and if you don't know what was in 2001, it's not going to help you. And he was in 7,000 movies in 4 years, so who knows?
Who knows? But like the kid though, walking away, this is his first like we're seeing the kid really go on a Ben Bateman-esque run from
Mm. This
last
is
year.
2 TKOs.
Yeah, 2 TKOs and then a KO in not in the family against Who's the Boss.
Yeah, in the teams match, and
So
going for the team's title.
this I hope that he does not hit his peak before the end of the year because I would love to see
Mhm.
double belted the kid bringing both.
Hey,
Uh,
whoa, 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 whoa.
hey man, I know I'm a corruption shill, but the kid, I love the kid. He's great.
I know. If it's not chance, it can.
Yeah, and you know what? I would be really happy to see see that, obviously, like I just said. Now, something we didn't talk about at the very beginning of the match, and I want to see if you caught it. So Mark and Draco had 2 references to Canada in this episode of Schmoedown. Can you think of what both of them were?
No.
So the first one was the blame Canada he wrote on his whiteboard at the beginning, which immediately made me...
I had that one. What's the second one?
The second one, did you notice his t-shirt?
No.
He was wearing an Alpha Flight t-shirt.
Oh, wow.
Which, for those uninitiated, is essentially Canadian X-Men. So it's pretty fantastic shit.
No, it's
and
not.
I was like, well, okay, I don't have time to sit here and break down what they are. What Alpha Flight is. This isn't a comic book show. Maybe that's coming later. Who knows?
Look, there's a character named Puck, and let's move on.
Yeah, okay.
The Quirky Merc now have 29 points with that win from Brendan.
Do they really? Wow, they are moving up very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, that's 13 points behind Swag and Corruption, and Bibs and the Kids still in the tournament on one side, and if Perry can sneak another win or two, and I mean, worst case, they could be
2. Oh my gosh, a lot of faith in Perry.
Looking pretty good here. I mean, I don't have non-faith in Perry, and she is running up against I mean, I could see her playing Mark Riley, taking that as a win. Jeff Snyder plays a nice game against Paulo Yama, but then faces Perry Nemiroff in a semifinal in that quad, and I mean, it seems like Perry should lose all of these matches, but I wouldn't count her out of any of them.
Neither would I, but we are not here to talk about Perry. Quickly, before we move on to the next match, the Kid is going to be going up against either Lon or Adam Collins in his next match. How do you think he fares against those 2 competitors?
Yeah, so he's going to play Adam Collins because we interviewed him, and we got to cheer for Adam Collins now. But until Lon's on the show, then I'll cheer for Lon, but he can't be bothered. If I could get Lon on the show by just showing up to his forest and interviewing him, just sit on the bench. I won't even record it. I'll just have a conversation with the delinquent, and then I'll have a good day.
Then it'll just be your retelling of the events.
Yeah, because he didn't show up to the interview, so I just have to make it all up. Shh, Dave.
I love it. Sorry. I don't know who he's gonna. Which I honestly don't have a good pick for Adam Collins versus Lon. I'm excited to see that one, but I think the Kid beats either one of them.
I do like his chances against both of them. I'm not going to discount Adam Collins because he's pitched a perfect game and TKO'd John Roca. So that could be a lot of confidence, or it could be a lot of overconfidence going into a new round.
You can only burn bright so long. Yes,
the brightest flames go out the quickest.
Very true.
But other than that, I do think Lon Harris is capable, but I do not like his chances. Mostly because I want Adam Collins to go in, and I love when rookies succeed, but I also don't think that he will stack up well against a student of the game type of player.
I
which
agree.
that's very much become just a turn of phrase for people who come from the other leagues. And yeah, we can move on to the next match here. We have the last contestant of the Burning Droogs, Jader Paramo, going up against Tom from the Den.
And correct me if I'm wrong, he's also the last competitor for the Den.
Rachel's out. James is out. Yes.
Paul Preston
is out.
So this was do or die for both Tom, for the Den and the Droogs.
Yeah, I did not know that. That's an interesting. It should have been like brought up, really. I'm surprised nobody mentioned it going through, like, even in the live chat. There really should have been some very high stakes going into this.
Well, to be fair, until I remember that it was the last of the Droogs. Until after the match, I wasn't like, wait a minute. Paul Preston lost, Rachel Silverstream lost, James White lost. In my head, Ben Goddard was still in the tournament.
Even though he's never been in the tournament.
Never been in the tournament. He's such a presence that I was like, surely Ben Goddard didn't. He didn't even play.
Dave, are you Schmoedown? You have to tell me if you're Schmoedown.
I'm not a cop, all right?
Sure. Okay. That took a little too long. Yes.
But
let's I do want to mention before we get into the match, Jader cut a very impressive promo. He's really like kind of taken to what he wants his character to be, and I really like it.
Yeah, I've always been very high on Jader Paramo. I know you and Lou kind of gave him a hard time on the last episode. You guys covered him.
Hey, I didn't give him that hard a time.
Go back and watch the episode. You and Lou
I said he's the only non-charity case in the Schmoedown.
That's right. It was mostly Lou. Youth Association. But I've always been really high on him. I thought he was playing at like a average level for a rookie in their first round, in their first match where he played against Brittany. Didn't have the strongest round second game when he played Vavida, but I was still very impressed. And I think we still have not seen the best of Jader, because even with this match, we are yet to see anything that he has wanted to get in round 2.
Yeah, I am looking forward to the day that he spins like his category, and he's definitely gonna go 8 for 8. And I'm actually worried. I don't know how Brandon Hanna's gonna do in teams. I have no idea what his singles knowledge might be, but I'm excited for more Jader this season.
Yeah, me too. And my cat just knocked over my poster. That's fine.
Yeah.
Batman's going on the ground now.
Sure.
Anyway.
And yeah, Jader goes perfect in the first round, which is always cool. And
Tom should have gone perfect.
I have no idea what happened. I even went back and tried to rewatch what happened.
So what happened was, it actually goes back to, and there's a lot more ramifications here, because it was the Who Directed Sin City. Jader put Robert Rodriguez. Sin City was directed in vignettes.
Okay.
So Tarantino did a part, Frank Miller did a part, and Robert Rodriguez. Now, Robert Rodriguez is the marquee first name on IMDb that you'll see, but technically, all 3 of those guys. Get away from this. Technically, he didn't direct all of it, even though he is the credited director. It's a weird thing. And Tom, he listed out all 3 people, and then he says he didn't name them all. And then in the private chat apparently is writing to Kate, we should challenge that, and then doesn't hear the next question. So that's why he writes Kevin Hart instead of Will Ferrell. So if that gets challenged,
he writes Will Ferrell instead of Kevin Hart.
He writes
Jader wrote Kevin Hart.
Sorry, but even if the challenge happens and say they overturn it and they're like, yeah, I guess we can't give the points to Jader. I'm sorry.
Yeah, at the very least.
Correct.
Yeah. And I don't think they do that. I think they just, although Tom does get the whole question read, and at least he gets to hear the next question instead of trying to be typing for a challenge.
And I think this really shows this is the first time that I think the digital age has actually really impacted the game in a negative way. Because I think if they are all in a room together, Tom's like looking at Kate and being like, no, we need to challenge this. Because now with the rules saying your manager must make the challenge, you can...
No, you can make the challenge. Your manager must come in and ratify the challenge.
And I think
that's why I was about to disagree with you and say this is not rookie, but sophomore mistakes.
Well, I think you can be... The language is a little weird because it sounds like when they're reading the rules as written, and even rules as intended, make it sound like you can say it, but then your manager has to say, we're okay with it. Yes, let's go ahead and do it. They get the final say. But when you just listen to the rules, it sounds a lot like your manager, like you can signal to them, but your manager has to be the one to make the official challenge. So I understand that weird bit. And if Tom is typing to Kate, challenge this, and then she doesn't see it,
he should just say it out loud, because the desk commentators will pause and bring Kate in. That's the only way to get her to answer and ratify the challenge in the first place.
And I think the issue there is making that I'm challenging this is so not Tom's character that I think that's why he wrote it in the private chat instead of saying it out loud.
I don't know. I think there is a way for him to do it anyway. Like, if you watch like the Star Wars and Inner Geekdom and Chandru's challenge, like Winston didn't know to challenge whatever the hell Chandru was challenging.
No, but to be fair, Chandru's a much more entrenched player than Tom is.
Yes, but I mean, I know Tom is very, like, kind of, he is like a very busy person, but also he's very into the Schmoedown. Like, nobody could come on and play that character if they weren't fully invested in what was going on.
No,
he must know how challenges work, and he can insist to the desk people that answer was wrong.
Yeah,
without saying challenge.
I think I don't think
answer was incomplete.
Well, he did say that. He said he didn't say all of them. And then Jen, and speaking of which, we didn't even mention Jen calling a match.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. I forgot to open this episode with Jen Sturger.
Jen's on the desk, right?
Yeah.
Like, how exciting was that? But we'll get to that in a second, actually. But he says, but when he says he didn't say all of them, Jen and Mark just kind of nervously laugh because that's kind of playing along with the Tom character.
I thought they took it as just a banter.
I think that's how they took it too, but it's clear that that's not how Tom intended it.
Yeah. And I mean, at that point, you just have to say it a second time, insist, pause the show. Like, there are ways to do it.
Yeah. Now
we should get out of the fifth question.
That's true. I think it was worth bringing up because there's a lot going on.
There was a lot to unpack, and it was the most interesting thing in this match to talk about. Jader elects to go second, even though It's so funny when managers say one thing and their competitor just does the other.
Yeah, I wrote or I didn't write. Someone posted in the Facebook group a write up and said every manager in the digital age comes in. You're doing great. You're a champion. You're going to do fantastic. Let's do X or let's do what, and player response, whatever the thing was. And then I wrote down below, or you're any manager in the Schmoedown and you're completely ignored.
Yeah. Well, it's very clear that some managers have definitely talked out a full strategy, and some have a vague idea, and some are just commenting on the slice in general.
Yeah.
They're just like, action movies are lame.
I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that.
And also, it's just so they don't have to give away strategies or anything. They've talked to their competitor for half an hour before any given match, right?
Yeah.
Tom spins Eddie Murphy and New Slice. Very, very interesting questions. I knew one of them, and I knew two of the movies they were talking about in the other two. But that's why especially Eddie Murphy movies. A lot of them came out before I was born.
Fair.
And I guess you too, in that sense.
Yeah. I gotta say though, I love
6 out of 8 with no steals is a great round 2. Yeah, but you were saying?
No, it is a really great round 2. And I just wanted to say, I really liked even just getting to pick the category. Tam, do you know who Eddie Murphy is? Yes. All right, we're gonna go with Eddie Murphy.
You know who he is? Do you want that slice? Yes. You want to spin again? No.
Do you want to sleep in the hollowed out carcass of a bear? Yes.
And then, I did mention a disappointing round 2 earlier, and here comes another one that I just felt so bad. I mean, I was just saying movies older than we are. Clearly 80s movies are older than Jader.
Yeah, it was rough because he spins and lands on 80s.
Yeah.
And Ken immediately is very clearly being like, we should spin again, bud. We should spin again. But then to hit opponent's choice after you so adamantly are like, not that one.
Yeah. You're always gonna get it, right?
Yeah. That's just the Schmo gods working.
Yeah. And he goes multiple choice on all the questions, which was smart, but he only gets one of them, and Tom gets all 3. And
all 3 steals, yeah.
That was so rough. And then it was rough, and I thought it was over, and I was feeling bad for Jader. And then he gets his 2, and he gets his 3. And then they go for his 5, and it's Name the Nightclub. I don't have the character's name, but in where the girl in the mask works.
Yeah.
And he gets it so quickly that, like, I do not even understand. He must have locations on his flashcards. That was wild.
Like, I don't know how old Jader Promo is off the top of my hand. But if he's not going 80s, I'm going to guess he's under 30. And the mask, for at least me, where I was living, I don't know if you got this. When I was a kid, we got DVDs in the cereal box sometimes. And The Mask was one of them. And I watched The Mask probably like a million times growing up because it was just one of the first DVDs I got because it came in a box of Fruit Loops or whatever. And I think because when he said it, I was like, oh, I know exactly what it is. And then I was like, there's no way he knows it though. And then with such confidence, he claims the nightclub. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. Yeah. He must have been a cereal box kid.
And it makes sense because If we're going by that logic, he was probably like born somewhere in the 80s and watching movies in the 90s, which is when The
Yeah.
Mask came out. And we saw literally the DVD version of The Mask. That is not the original Mask.
No. No, it is
But
not.
yeah, he gets to 20, and I wish he could have had just one more point throughout the game, because if he could have pushed Tom to his 5, this could have been a game, and it could have been an incredible sudden death. But Tom gets to hit his 2 and his 3 and win it outright, 21-20, and oof.
Yeah, this was like I gotta say though, I loved seeing Tom's energy, and just I want to go back to Jader even getting 80s movies
Mm-hmm.
because I love well, he spun away from 80s, and then Tom's like, okay, 80s. And then Mark keeps counting down, and Kay's like, we're giving him the 80s, Mark. Grace, why don't you say now you say 80s, Grace? And I just
Yeah.
love that entire dynamic.
80s.
Now
Yeah.
you say Dan, now you say 80s.
I really like having like Grace on camera, even though she doesn't like say anything to the competitor. She's not there to coach, she's just there to give commentary, and
Mhm.
that doesn't upset the balance for anybody, but allows Grace to be her amazing self on camera more
I
often,
also
and we need that.
We do. And I also love though that end of last season, they're like, we're breaking Ken, you gotta go be a player, and Grace, you're out of corruption. You're not gonna be a manager anymore. And then we have in this match, they're both managers.
And I mean, I was terrified of. I mean, she just got the Lions Den back. Like, I can't believe after all these years that Grace just manages to put her little faction of evil together over and over and over again. Is
Hey
it the
man,
Lions Den? Is it corruption? Is it the Den? It doesn't matter. Grace is behind it all.
yeah, she's a very impressive the people she breeds greatness wherever she goes. And Tom could be the next greatness. She
Mm.
conquered teams with the Patriots. She had Ken rocking Star Wars. Then she went and got Mike in IG. She's looking for that singles title, and then she will have managed someone
Oh
for every
wow.
belt. And
Yeah.
is Tom? I didn't even realize that until I started talking.
So I guess Patriots and corruption in teams.
Patriots and corruption in teams. I think well, I guess Ken already
Oh
had it
wow.
when he joined the Lions Den, right? Or he had lost it when he joined the Lions Den.
I'm not actually sure when Ken joined the Lions Den, because at the time I was mostly watching the Schmoedown inconcurrently and just following certain player storylines. So I remember when he left Nerds Watch, and I remember Rachel losing by a single point. And if you give Rachel 1.5 points per question and even round it down, she beats most teams on her own.
Yeah,
I'm kind of sure of that.
but
We should probably the Den picked up 3 points. They hit 23. They stay exactly where they were in 5th and push a little bit farther away from the Rock Stars, but I'm not sure they have the ability to climb with only one person in the singles tournament and not that many
no,
teams matches to be spread around.
I don't
Uh,
think so.
Unlike the Mercs, it does seem like it's done for pretty much anyone. The Rockstars could make a bit of a run, no,
Well,
because they're down to just Snyder now.
yeah, and then they only have the odd couple,
Yeah,
and
it
they'll
does
get
seem like the top 4 factions are going to be the ones we're looking at the end of the year.
I really think it's going to come down. Yeah, Corky Sharks are really the only challenger to break up that podium right now.
Yeah.
And they even still have a bit of a mountain to climb to get up there.
Yeah. But I mean, you could possibly get Kevin Smith another match because he's 1-0 and he's Kevin Smith. And then there's a couple of other things. Shazam could win the titles and then defend the titles at Spectacular for lots of points. There's a lot of possibilities.
Yeah, and there's a lot of great stuff, but the Droogs are now out of the tournament.
Yeah.
Which,
yeah,
if you had asked me at the start of the tournament which faction would get knocked out first, I would not have said the Droogs. I probably would have said the Dungeon.
I possibly would have said the Usual Suspects, except Ethan Irwin is incredible.
In your dream scenario, Ethan beat Dan.
Well, no, actually. I wanted Ethan to lose. I wanted the fantasy points. I wanted him in this tournament, winning me lots of matches. But we should probably, since we've run to Fantasy League talk, close the show at that, where nobody else wants to hear us talk for any longer.
Yeah.
Where can we find you, Dave?
You can find me I'm not even going to say don't follow me at Leaves Me Alone. You can find me at Leaves Me Alone, but more importantly, you can find me at Schmoes in the North on YouTube here all the time. Join our Facebook page at Schmoes in the North on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at Northern Schmoes. Do it all.
Yes. And when you go to our YouTube page, please make sure to like and subscribe, because more likes on our videos definitely make more people see them, and that is generally helpful. And we can be found, as always, all over the place. Wherever there's a Schmoedown conversation, you're going to find one of us in it.
Yes.
And I can be found personally at Avengers under SOTN. On Twitter, and that's more or less it. Anything else to say, Dave, before we head on out?
Have a good night.